Hello everyone! I need just 500 subscribers. Please subscribe my channel. Thanku.com. When I first invited my parents over for dinner, I could already hear the judgment in my mother's voice over the phone. A one-bedroom apartment? She scoffed. Ethan, you're almost 30. Don't you think it's time to grow up and live somewhere respectable? My dad chuckled in the background. Just don't make us sit on bean bags like in college, he joked. They had no idea. I cleaned my apartment before they arrived. A modest, minimalistic place with plain white walls, a small kitchen, and second-hand furniture. The building itself wasn't glamorous either. It was an old red brick complex in the heart of Brooklyn. Nothing flashy, but it had character and, more importantly, history. I'd fallen in love with it years ago when I was still in college. At the time, my parents didn't support my dream of going into real estate. You're throwing away your computer science degree, Mom said. You should work for a tech company, not play landlord. So I kept my ambitions quiet, worked as a software engineer during the day, and spent my nights learning everything I could about property investment. I lived frugally, saved like a man possessed, and took risks that made even my closest friends think I was crazy. At 27, I emptied my savings and bought this very building, all 4 floors of it, from an elderly couple looking to retire. I negotiated a fair deal, handled the renovation myself, and slowly began renting out units. I kept one of the smallest for myself, humble, strategic, quiet. That's where my parents were coming tonight. When they arrived, Mom wrinkled her nose at the hallway wallpaper. This place looks like it hasn't been updated since the 80s. She muttered. It's cozy, I said with a grin, holding the door to my apartment open. Dad stepped in, looked around, and whistled. Tiny place for a big man like you, he said. Where's the rest of it? I laughed it off and poured them each a glass of wine. You know, Mom said, sitting stiffly on my thrift store couch. If you ever need help with rent, we can pitch in. I almost choked on my drink. I'm fine, really. You can't impress anyone living like this, Dad added. No girl wants a guy who still lives like a college student. That one stung, but I didn't argue. I just smiled and said, let's eat. We had dinner, takeout from their favorite Italian place, and after dessert, I cleared the table while they relaxed. That's when Dad stood up and walked to the window, glancing at the neighboring apartment across the courtyard. I think this is the same layout as our unit, he said. Funny how small all these places are. I turned around slowly. Wait. Yeah, Dad said casually. We moved in last fall, remember? To be, my older couple owned it. Friendly landlord, quiet neighbors. My grin widened. You're kidding, I said. No, Mom added. Rent's surprisingly cheap for this area. Still, you should aim higher than this kind of building. I walked to my desk drawer, pulled out a folder, and handed it to them. What's this? Mom asked, flipping it open. Her eyes scanned the papers, her brow furrowing. It was the property deed. My name right there in bold print, as the sole owner of the building. Dad took the folder next, blinking in confusion. You own the building. I nodded, all 16 units, including yours. Silence. For the first time all evening, they had nothing to say. I bought it 2 years ago, I said. Renovated it myself, unit by unit. Kept rents fair. Yours included. You mean, Mom began slowly. We've been paying you rent every month, I said, trying not to laugh. Thanks for always being on time, by the way. Dad sat down hard on the couch. You really own this? Completely. And before you say anything else, I chose to live in this small apartment. I don't need a penthouse to feel successful. Mom's cheeks turned pink. I had no idea. I didn't want to brag, I said. I just wanted to show you eventually that I didn't waste my life. I built something quietly.